So in my previous videos, where we went over a general guideline on how to play the game, and also about personas, I mentioned that I'd make this into different parts, which I didn't, so I thought I'd go over revelation cards today, since just like my videos, they are confusing as fuck. So getting started, the first time we're going to come across these cards is in the palace chests, as well as mementos chests. They are also available in certain shops, rewards, and farmable with stamina in the metaverse. You do not want to farm these ideally until level 80, reason being that's the level you'll get 2 to 3 gold cards and 3 to 4 purple cards, instead of 1 to 2 gold cards and 2 to 3 purple cards from previous levels. I am most likely going to farm some of these at level 60 once I have enough materials to level up my characters to the next threshold. I do have the battle pass and the monthly thingy, so do with that information what you will. But moving on, revelation cards go into 4 different slots, being Sun, Moon, Star and Sky, which together grant you 2-piece or 4-piece set bonuses. Then we have our Space Revelation card and slot, which grants us another bonus depending on our previous card choices. Okay, now the next thing to know is that Revelation cards, or Heaven cards as they might also be called, have multiple different sets that interact differently with each of the Space Revelation cards' different sets. So over here I'm using Renewal Revelation cards or Renewal Heaven cards, paired with a Growth Space Revelation card. Space Revelation card bonuses only activate if there is a corresponding 4-piece set in your Revelations. Now let's look at each individual slot and what main stats each slot can have. Sun will always be HP, Moon can be HP recovery, attack multiplier, attack, HP, and defense. For Star, we can get crit rate, crit multiplier, ailment accuracy, attack, HP, and defense. For Sky, we can get speed, and if you don't know, speed just affects the order in which your characters go in, and also the ailment accuracy, but it's not too important for the ailment accuracy. We also get SP recovery, attack, HP, and defense. And for our substats, we can get all of these stats, including attack, HP, and defense, being both in flat numbers or percentage numbers. Also, cards can come with 3 to 4 substats, and every 5 levels the card is upgraded. If your card has 3 substats, it will gain 1 more. If it already has 4 substats, then 1 random substat will be increased for each 5 levels that you increase. So you can get a total of 5 upgrades, leaving your card at level 25. The same applies to your Space Revelation cards, and their main stats are always attack and defense. Eventually, a system will come that allows you to reroll your main stat, reset your card level back to 0, as well as transmutate cards, so basically you sacrifice some cards in trade for one other random card. So the main takeaway is to save your high tier cards that are trash to reroll them later, and lock perfect substats cards to reroll your main stat later on. And maybe they'll let us do this vice versa as well. So now, how do we find our ideal set and stats for our characters? You can just use a character sheet as a general guideline, but where you want to start off first is looking at your character skills. So for Yui, we can see that skill 1 does damage equal to 159% of our attack, so attack seems important for skill 1. Now let's look at skill 3. Grant player 2 to 1 ally for 2 turns and increase Yui's attack by 36.8%. Okay, so a few points here. First of all, we are getting attack boosts, which would technically make a multiplier good here. If we keep reading, we'll see that when player 2 deals damage, Yui will do a follow-up scaling off of her attack. So another point for the attack stat. Her highlight increases attack by 29.4%, and damage scales off of attack as well. If we look at her Let's Go Together passive, it increases our attack and critical rate by 8%. So by looking at her skills, we can see that attack is something that we want a lot of, followed by crit and crit multipliers, since she has multiple chances of critting thanks to her follow-ups. That also scale off of attack. So if we look back at our card possibilities, Moon would have to be attack, Star would be crit rate or crit damage, and Sky would be attack. For our substats, we'll be looking for crit rate and or crit multiplier, Pierce, which is basically armor penetration, and possibly more attack. Just know that there is a lot that will influence what your ideal cards will look like. In the real endgame at least, once you're able to hit certain caps, either thanks to persona buffs paired with other teammates and also depending on your character's awareness or dupe levels. Also, there are a lot of other creators who basically done or know the math on what the perfect stats would be and all about the damage calculations, and I am not one of them. But if you are like me and want to learn as much as you can in your own way, I do believe this method is viable enough. And then you can use Najox, Bladesifer, Earphone iDot, and these 2 websites is where I like to go for cheat sheets and overall learning, and basically just to make sure I'm on the right path. So for example, like I mentioned previously, I would have assumed something like attack multiplier would be very good on Yui. And if you look back at our in-game character guide, it also does recommend attack multiplier. However, on this website, as we can see, attack multiplier is not even mentioned. So if you're like me and math hard, just come over here, do your best, and then go over to the websites or other people just to confirm your choices. But going back, if we look at On, for example, skill 1 scales off and increases attack and also lowers enemies' attack by a percentage of our attack. Pretty obvious what we want. Skill 2, attack scaling. Skill 3, attack scaling. Highlight, attack scaling. Her 2 passives benefit from attack, and her awareness gives her a big boost in attack. So my guess would be that attack multiplier would be good on, since she doesn't have a lot of chances to attack unlike Yui, and followed by crit and crit multipliers, so buffing her raw damage is more valuable. And if we look at our cheat sheet, we can see that attack multi is recommended. I would have guessed attack multi would be on substats as well, which I guess it can still be, but this is just a priority thing, cause math. And we can do this all day, like Soy, only wanting HP for example. We can also look at weapons, but let me just point out the navigators and move on. Navigators are basically the same thing. Okion as an example, we can see she wants attack, so that's what we're going to put on her. But for everything else, we want to consider that navigators give us a percentage of their stats. So since Okion buffs damage, we also want to be going with things like crit rate and crit multipliers to make our DPS even stronger. Now, how do we find our card sets? I like to go over to collections and then clicking on revelations. And here we can see all the different space and heaven cards. And for the most part, the cards are basically tailored towards certain characters, and you'll notice that as they release new cards alongside new characters. So aside from, for example, buffers and debuffers or healers, like on the love card for example, where it's generally good for any healer, if we look at control, this immediately screams Soy, at least for now. Renewal, closer, or Yui. Peace would be puppet. So you kind of get the idea. That's not to say that other sets are useless, for example. While Opulence is Mont's ideal cards, Yui could still benefit from the 4-piece set, which gives a resonance damage boost. But let's say you pick the love set. We would now go into the space cards and look for love. So no love here, no love here. We do have one here. After dealing a critical hit, increase user's healing effect by 28% for 2 turns. So that's one option. We have Faith in Love. For every 800 HP, increase user's healing effect by 1%, maximum of 20. So just as a quick example, you could use this on Soy for his skill 3. Nothing here. Nothing here. After using a healing skill, increase user attack by 25%. Could be good. Nothing, and that's all of them. So as a general guideline, I hope this will serve you all well. If I forgot anything or find out something that is incorrect, I'll leave it in a pinned comment. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.